Side quests, absolutely not. I need to know what happens next.
I mean, that's understandable.
Hi, and welcome back to Quest Markers. On this show, we talk about video games and the stories they tell with a focus on narrative. My name is Marina. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a video game composer, audio engineer, and your host. Today, we are talking about my beloved Nier Automata again. Spoiler warning, we will talk about the entire game and all its twists and turns. So I know I'm not supposed to tell you to not listen to the show, but please, if there's one game I'd love for you to play without any spoilers, it is this one. We'll also talk about Nier Replicant, so go play that as well. Quick disclaimer, Nier Automata is rated M for mature, and it also gets into deep topics around what it means to be human and the wide range of human emotions, good and bad. So if you're not up for that kind of conversation today, that's okay. Feel free to come back. In this episode, we talk about Nier Automata's narrative design, the story's twists and turns, and how Yoko Taro created a world so rich and beautiful and filled with humanity, despite it being devoid of humans. Today, we have a returning guest, Mr. Zack Parkerson from The Gaming Outsider. You should check out their show. Zack was initially on our Nier Replicant episode last year, so what a perfect guest to have on this one. Thank you for listening and for being here, and let's get into it. Hello, Zack. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Great to be back.
So excited to have you.
So happy I could do the Nier twofer.
Of course. How are you staying hydrated today? What are you drinking?
Well, it's later for me than I suspect. If it is for you, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That sounds right. So I'm on water right now, but I've been starting the mornings with some French press coffee. So I think you'd be happy to hear that.
Absolutely. That sounds fantastic. What a treat.
It is a treat. I have this hilarious coffee I'm drinking right now that I got at my comic shop. It's a Sinestro Core blend. So the Green Lantern villains, I guess, cooking up the roastery.
Fancy.
It's not very good, but it is nonetheless fun. So I've been drinking that.
It's something.
Yes, that's what you need. Something.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
What about you? What are you hydrating?
I do have coffee. I do have water, and nothing else. I tend to be a pretty terrible culprit and drink goblin. But right now, I only have 2 things on my desk. So, yeah.
Wow. Good for you. You're cutting down.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm proud. Zack, before we get into things, could you please introduce yourself for anyone who hasn't listened to our Nier Replicant episode, which you should?
Yes, you should. The slightly superior Nier game.
I'll challenge you on that.
Oh, that's why, out of consideration for you, I said slightly. But yes, I am Zack Parkerson, he, him, and I co-host the podcast, The Gaming Outsider, as well as writing reviews for the 6 people left that read them. And then we just talk about video games every week, and the shifting news. And our goal is just to try to make it sound like a conversation between friends. And we love interacting with our community. If you join our Discord, you can write into the show every week, and that's pretty much me.
Do go check out The Gaming Outsider. To your point on saying that it's meant to be a conversation with friends, it absolutely is. I was on a road trip in New Zealand recently, and my partner and I put it on for endless hours, and it was so good.
Wow.
Just such a great listen.
I think that is a high honor to be road trip accompaniment. That's wonderful.
There you go.
Yeah, it doesn't get better than that.
No, truly. Like, what's better than road tripping and listening to a good podcast?
I mean, I'm with you.
And having a good coffee,
Yeah.
What are you currently playing?
Oh, I'm sure, at the time of this recording, I'm sure I and many others are playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I just beat it last night. It is a very long game.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing that each entry of this remake trilogy is twice the length of Final Fantasy VII ever was.
Yep.
But, I mean, that game's incredible. Just a ton of fun. There's a lot of interesting stuff with expectations, I would say. I don't want to give anything away. So I'm playing a lot of that. I did check out Midnight Suns, which is like the Marvel strategy game. And that game is such a strange conflict because I think it might be the first time I'm playing a game where I'm suffering through the story to get to the gameplay.
Oh no.
Because the story,
that's odd.
Yeah, I've played dozens, maybe hundreds of games where I've suffered through bad gameplay for a good story. But the inverse, I think, is rare. But these characters are just, it's truly bewildering.
Oh no!
To see these adult superheroes, this X-Men character had a surprise birthday party thrown for her, and she was too embarrassed about being the center of attention. So naturally, she ran away to Limbo, a hell dimension, to avoid everybody. But then her friend,
yes,
then her friend was too embarrassed of having thrown the party, so she asked me, somebody who's known them for exactly 10 days, because the game tells you how long you've known them, is somehow better suited to talk to her. It's a bunch of high school stuff going on. It's really weird.
I'm so sorry.
But the strategy gameplay is exceptional, so it's really, really difficult to,
You didn't sell me on that, but I am playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's been so good, and having played the original game, and I remember playing Remake and just being in awe of how they brought Midgar to life, and now being in awe with how they brought the rest of the planet to life. I guess they haven't explicitly said that it's Gaia, but I'm assuming that it's still called Gaia. Is incredible. And I think my favorite part is, I think it's got to be a tie between the music and the characters, and just how rich the relationships between the characters are. They did such a fantastic job of fleshing that out and making everyone feel so real and making the world feel lived in. And the voice acting is phenomenal. Just so good. I'm getting close to the end. So good.
They do a great job of making sure the party members have friendships with each other.
Yes.
Which can often be overlooked in JRPGs.
Yeah.
So it's been really I love Yuffie and Barrett's little playful friendship. They're adorable.
So good.
But I will never be able to forgive FF7 Rebirth for making me like Yuffie, and that's despicable. I've hated her for 20 years or whatever, and now she's quite likable in this game.
Oh, she's fantastic. She's so good.
She's like a little sister, She's definitely annoying, but you can't help but love her.
Yeah, absolutely. No, she's fantastic. And I love the friendship between Aerith and Tifa as well. Just so well done.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Barrett is just phenomenal as a character. Anytime Barrett talks, just so good. So good. And he very much, I feel like, plays this role of reminding us why we're here, but also just has this beautiful emotional storyline, and is also so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, just so good.
These remakes have made Barrett my favorite member of the cast.
Oh, truly. Just, I could go on and on. I can't wait to finish it. Kind of. I say that, but I don't want it to end.
Right. But I kind of selfishly, I want you to finish it because I'll be curious what you make of the ending.
I'm very interested, given, I'm not going to spoil anything, but given kind of what the end of Remake was, and then what the very beginning of Rebirth was, my jaw dropped the first 10 minutes of Rebirth. And I think what they're doing is interesting. But yeah, we'll see. We're not here to talk about FF7 Rebirth.
Though I could.
I could. I mean, I'm not even finished the game, and yeah, I could talk about Queen's Blood for an hour.
Yeah, you almost did before the recording. Yeah,
exactly. I really enjoy it. I think it's very divisive, is what I've seen on social media, but I quite enjoy it a lot.
I didn't really like it until like the last few matches, because I just rocked the starter deck all the way through. Because
you can, yeah,
you can, because positioning kind of matters more than your cards. But then those last few matches, they finally force you to pay attention to the rules, and then I found it deeply engaging.
Yeah, some of those matches were quite tough.
Yeah.
Especially if you did like the Gold Saucer. What was it? There's like a Gold Saucer Rush, I suppose. There's just a ton of matches at the Gold Saucer, and the last couple are just brutal, where it goes into multi-round, and yeah.
All right, I did not do the Gold Saucer ones. I'm sorry to let you down.
Blasphemy.
I just did the ones that had the story attached, the little side quest chain.
I mean, that was so good.
That was a lot of fun.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I got to go back to the. You're not the first person to tell me how difficult the Gold Saucer stuff is, so I got to circle back to that to prove my Queen's Blood cred.
There you go. Exactly. All right. We're not here to talk about Queen's Blood either, unfortunately. fortunately, we are here to talk about my favorite game of all time, Nier Automata. And I'll kick us off with a really, really brief story summary, and then we'll get into it. And I feel like we can talk about this for hours, so I'm very keen to see where the conversation takes us. At a surface level, Nier Automata tells the story of androids 2B and 9S fighting to take back Earth, which has been invaded by aliens and their machine creations, which forced the humans to migrate to the moon. And at a deeper level, the game explores what it means to be human through the lens of robots. And I think I'm going to leave it there because we have a whole other episode on Nier Automata that goes very in depth on the story. It's episode 11, if you want to check that out. And I think in this game in particular, there's so much to talk about. And this is often referred to as, quote, depression the game, end quote. So let's start there. How do you feel about that characterization? Because I feel like I have an opinion here that is not mainstream.
Yeah, it's that description of it has always been funny. But it's because I probably did think that way my first time playing it, maybe, but then playing it through again, it's quite clear that though it is quite depressing, it is ultimately kind of a story about second chances and hope. You know, like with the way it ends, right? It's tough to play through the credits and not come away with a positive feeling. And how, you know, if we did work together, maybe we could get through this hellscape we call a world. You know, so I can see why people call it depression the game, but I really think I walk away with it feeling more hopeful than I do like leaving Nier Replicant, for instance.
Yeah, agreed, for sure.
So I don't know. I suspect you might agree with this assessment.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement. I think there are sad moments in the game, but there's a through line of hope, and there's so much hope if you look at ending E, where it's clear that 2B, 9S, and A2 have escaped, you know, the quote unquote cycle of life and death, and they're free to live on their own terms outside of Yorha now. And to your point, the path to getting to ending E is so beautiful because you do it with other players who have sacrificed their save files.
Right.
So yeah, I think that it very much is a story about introspection and what it means to be human and what it means to have hope. Because even when we think about why Project Yorha was, I'm just going to go straight into the details, but even if we think about why Project Yorha was created, it was to inspire androids who were losing hope.
Right.
And, you know, maybe it's not the best example because all of that ended up being a facade and a lie. But I think in a lot of places where you look in this game, there is so much hope, and there's a lot that can be interpreted as hope. But for me, I really like how it ends off. It starts off with that 2B quote, and it ends off with a similar quote, but at the ending told by the two pods. To me, it makes it clear that they've escaped that cycle, and that, you know, they're free now. They can go and live on their own terms. So yeah, I thought that it was quite hopeful.
Right. They finally get their chance.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, and but yes, the ride is depressing. You know, there are tearjerker moments, but you know, the hardest I cried was the kind of the happiness of the, you know, the chorus during the credits and everything. Oh, you know,
so good.
And but suffering kind of makes the good moments stand out in your life. You know, if your whole life was roses, how could you ever appreciate the moments?
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's such a big theme in the game. You have life, and by definition, you're going to have the good and you're going to have the bad and everything that comes with it. And the game was no other game has made me cry as much as this game. I think it was maybe the time that I played it, and FF14 maybe comes close, but Nier Automata was just so visceral in a lot of ways. And I think human is the only way that I can really describe it. It was just such an emotional game, partially because there's so many twists and turns, partially because it examines humanity through the lens of something that's not human, through you know, robots and androids and machines. But especially my first playthrough was really, really emotional. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like 2B, you know, starts off as kind of cold and I guess uncaring, or seemingly, right? But as the story progresses and you see that how human these androids are, I'd be hard pressed to find anybody who didn't have an emotional way through the game. It's just like you said, so many things that happen are so powerful, and these robot characters have more humanity than most humans I've met, and maybe that's because they're not human, so that they can actually strive to appreciate this gift of humanity that we all have I guess. So yeah, that first experience is a roller coaster, and what's wild about this game is that every playthrough is an emotional roller coaster.
Agreed. I've played it a few times, and I agree. Every single time I pick it up, there's something that just, again, it's very visceral. It hits me, and I think the music plays a really big role in that as well.
I think visceral is a good word. Like just 9S's guttural screams as he's losing it in Route C. Yeah, I think I think visceral is a good way to describe it. A word that is often overused, but I think here is used appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into do you think that it's a philosophical game as well if you want? There's a lot of debate there.
Oh man, what do people debate that it is somehow not?
I think a lot of people, when someone says, "Oh, this game is really philosophical," I think someone's initial reaction is, "Well, how can a video game be philosophical?" But there's clearly references to actual philosophers in the game. It's chock full of references.
Yeah, I mean, I think the game wants you to think about humanity, it wants you to examine your own life. I feel like, or it's easy to call the game an existential nightmare because all the characters have to reevaluate their place in their world. Much as we have all done, I assume, at one point or another. So yeah, no, I think the game is deep. It is philosophical in a way that most games wouldn't even try to be, and it does it over and over again.
And it does it well as well. It doesn't do it in a corny way. It doesn't in a way that just makes sense and feels congruent to the entire narrative. And it's to me, it has some of the best narrative design that I've ever seen, if not the best. From how the tutorial is done at the very beginning, where you have parts of your ship completely locked and on autopilot, and then it unlocks it and gives you the tutorial for it, to it's Souls-like, I guess, in a way, where when you die, you have to go pick up your power-up chips in order to get your upgrades back. But it makes sense because you're an android and your consciousness gets uploaded into a new body. And so you got to go pick up the upgrades from your old body. And I think that's done super well.
Yeah, and it makes you think of how horrifying would that be to have to go scavenge your own body.
Oh my goodness. This is one of the first games that I played that used a mechanic like that. I think Hollow Knight was maybe the first one. And so I was terrified of dying, and I didn't die up until the very end of Route A. And I was like, oh no, what if I don't get my power-ups back? I just didn't want to lose my stuff.
Yeah.
But there was also the point where 2B gets infected and your screen gets all staticky and she becomes hard to control. And I don't know. I think the narrative design is done exceptionally well in this game.
No, it is a rare example of a story that could only be told in this medium, because it is using so many video game tricks to either fool you or just to tell its story more powerfully. And the recovering the body is a great example of that. That's everything that you were is in that corpse over there, or even the save system, which it could be infuriating if you die in the opening section. But but it's pretty cool. The game stays committed to its narrative so much that you have to wait until you're within an Android cell tower. I guess I don't remember the vending machines to save. Yeah, I think that the narrative design of any Yoko Taro game really is brilliant. He is a master of the craft, which I assume is why he's taking 10 years to make another one.
Yeah, I'll wait.
Sure, absolutely. Wait. Although it is funny to me that it has now been longer since Automata, a successful game, came out, and we still don't have a sequel. But when the first game that bombed and shut down the studio got a sequel in 7 years, and now it's been 7 years and counting for Automata. That's pretty funny.
I mean, I suppose do we count Reincarnation, which is getting shut down this month, right?
Yes. Well, yeah, you're April. You're right.
Do we count that as a part of the series? I mean, Yeah.
Well, Yoko Taro calls it Nier 3, but I would argue if it's the third game, like it shouldn't be able to be deleted then, right?
I wonder if that's some sort of narrative design. Like now I'm like, hold on, why is Yoko Taro doing
See,
this?
that's how you know we're deep in the Yoko Taro camp, because I'm like, yeah, it's probably part of the design, right? It's probably part of the story, is that, you know, life is fleeting, right? You only get one or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you play Reincarnation?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. I try here and there, but I don't think I'll be caught up in time.
Yeah, no, I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't. But I do want to watch a full playthrough.
There are cool ties to Nier Automata in that game.
Oh, I'm sure.
And to Drakengard 3. So it's...
I really want to play Drakengard 3. I haven't played it. I would love to see a remaster of that game.
Yeah. Well, it ran at like 12 frames a second on PS3, so it would take quite a bit of work, I imagine.
Oh no. Yeah, no, haven't played Reincarnation. Would like to play Drakengard 3. But going back to Automata, I think one thing that I loved about the narrative of this game is how chock full of surprises and twists and turns it has, and narrative misdirection as well, which they kind of make obvious at the beginning. Like when you hear "Glory to Mankind," you're like, oh, there's something sketchy going on here. But there's so many moments that I loved where I had to put the controller down, which doesn't really happen that often anymore, I think, to me. But in this game, it was just constantly just got to put the controller down and let this sink in.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite moments?
The most memorable moment for me is because I played the first Nier, you know, a bunch before I played this game. I knew the structure of the New Game Plus, right? So I'm playing Automata, and I get to the ending of Route A, and it's, you know, I'm prepared. I know I want to go back through this game. It's cool. You know, it was a cool twist that you're playing as 9S instead of the same character every time. But that always made sense to me because it was clear that they wanted you to play as Kaine in the New Game Plus of the original Nier, and they made that game with about $14. So you know, they just couldn't. So
yeah, 13, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. Sorry, I hate to overestimate. But so there was something when you get to the end of Route B, and I'm like, yeah, I know what's up. It's time to do the story as A2 now. And then the game plays a trailer for a whole other game. and then the game, then you just play a sequel almost to Nier Automata.
Yeah.
Inside of Nier Automata. And it's just, that was like so unexpected. I don't know. I can't think of any other developer who would have the stones to do such a thing. Where you basically just tacked on, there's a whole other game right here. And it's not, you know, Route C is pretty substantial in length.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that was quite a surprise and a fun twist for me, because I thought I had known the structure, and of course there's 1,000 other twists in the story, but I'll just never forget, you know, the way my jaw hit the floor when the game played a trailer for its own sequel.
I can only imagine having played Nier Gestalt and then going into this thinking that it's going to be like that, and then having it not be like that.
Yeah.
Especially in Route C, I can only imagine, because I played Automata first and then I played Replicant. Mm-hmm. So I can't even imagine what that must have been like. I loved that so much. And they killed 2B as well. So you're like, what?
and when they kill 2B, you're like, yes, surely she will come back. And then you just play more and more. You're like, oh nope, she's dead. That's crazy.
Yep. As I said, there were so many times where I had to put the controller down, and you know, one of them was like, oh, well, humans are extinct. We've actually been lying to you, which, like, Yorha was sketchy from the beginning, but for some reason, again, I just had such a visceral reaction to the game saying humans are extinct.
I mean, what a sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
But imagine you come from Nier, and you play Nier Replicant now. Like, the game ends
right?
With you
yeah.
essentially inciting the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So immediately I'm like, well, this doesn't make a lot of sense. What the hell? There can't possibly be, the humanity can't be on the moon. But then they seem so dedicated to that idea that I'm like, well, maybe I misinterpreted that ending. I don't know. But Yoko Taro said he wanted to make a sequel that would be more confusing for fans of the original, and mission accomplished, my guy.
Yeah. Well, it just, I feel like I'm going to defend that because I love, after I finish a game where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I completely understood 100% of it. I love just reading people's thoughts on things and then coming up with the full picture afterwards. I think that's why maybe I loved Elden Ring so much, is because afterwards I could be like, oh, let me watch 13 video essays now about
only 13, you barely skimmed the surface.
Yeah, exactly. But I really enjoyed that. You got the information in a fragmented way, and like if you didn't pick up some of the I guess dossiers or documents, you wouldn't understand everything about Project Gestalt if you never played Nier Replicant. But yeah, I can only imagine what that was like for you, where I would have gone in being like, hold on, that's not true.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, and then there, you go through like this, like the desert area is, has a lot of facade stuff, a town from the original Nier. And so I was like, well, clearly I'm not being lied to about like the timeline here. So what the hell, what do you mean there's no humanity still? So it was pretty interesting. Oh, and another moment that really did have me like pause for a bit was when you find out the piece of information that the Yorha androids and the machines are made out of the same material.
I loved that so much. Man, in the soul box as 9S. Yeah. That was a put the controller down moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, me too. That was I was like, what war are we fighting here? Yeah, it was. I felt as hopeless as 9S probably did in that moment.
Yeah, me too. Because the entire time you're in this, infinite war between the androids and the machines. And then when you learn that, wait, hold on, androids are just made of recycled machine parts? What do you mean?
Right.
What? And you have an existential crisis, which I think is the point.
Yeah. And it just really cements that this is all manufactured. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even learning kind of the purpose of Project Yorha in raising morale and restoring android sense of purpose after humanity had died, which I guess is more of or became extinct, I should say, which goes more into Replicant territory and what that game was about, and the fact that, yeah, I mean, they were trying to keep humanity alive until the white chlorination syndrome problem was really getting into the details was resolved,
right?
And we as the protagonist made sure that didn't happen.
You're right. Hey man, that guy had your sister. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Listen to him? I don't think so. No way.
Yeah, no, that was really good. Yeah, To Be dying was so good. To be up until the very end. Like you get to the end and you're like, oh, there's no more surprises. And then you're told that 2B is 2E, meaning a secret executioner type model that's meant to kill type S models.
Yeah.
And so my jaw dropped reading that, listening to that. I guess it was a voiced cutscene. And then I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be no more surprises. And then 9S and A2 pull their swords out and face each other. And then you're asked to choose between them. And you're like, what do you mean? This is the final fight? What?
Yeah.
Again, had to put the controller down.
Dude, it was that, yeah. That whole, I mean, the whole like last section is just nonstop what the hell moments.
Yeah.
There's that crazy moment where 9S is surrounded by 2Bs and he's just crackling mad about how happy he is to see her and how he can't wait to kill her.
Oh, brutal.
And I was like, well, I guess it is. And this kind of your guys' relationship, isn't it? Yeah, the 2E thing is nuts. Who did you pick the first time you played?
The first time I picked A2 because I wanted to put 9S out of his misery. Yeah. And then I played as 9S.
Yeah. Well, that's a sensible choice. I picked 9S because I was like, well, I've known him. This is my boy.
That's fair. I get that.
this guy's lost his mind. Let's ride this out, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah, no, I picked A2. I was like, gotta put 9S out of his misery. And then I shut the game off. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do the rest tomorrow. Which I'm kind of glad I did. I think it would have been information overload.
That was probably wise. That was good.
At the same time. But I didn't realize that was like the end of the game. But yeah, what an incredible ending. just twists and turns. I can't. Can you think of another game that does twists and turns like that up until the very, very end?
No, especially not so consistently, right? Like that's crazy to be tricked that often somehow by a narrative, and for none of it to feel cheap.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, they all feel earned and they all hurt, really.
Oh yeah.
It is just masterful writing across the board.
Yeah. Like I loved 2B. I loved 2B so much. And then 2B had to die.
Right.
And I was like, what? What do you can't kill off a main character? Who am I going to play as?
Right. You can't kill off the character you've made all the statues of.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not okay.
That's brilliant. It's so good. I didn't ask though, what's your favorite build? What weapons did you typically run with?
Well, I had every time I play, I do a different, because you get your 3 chipsets. So I do 1 chipset is for each character. And they all kind of specialize in different things. But I love maxing out the hacking stuff because I kind of like the hacking as 9S, which I know can definitely be annoying. But I love doing that with him because you can just wreck those fools by doing a little cute little arcade game.
Yeah, it's quite good.
But when I'm playing as 2B, who I think is the most fun character to play as, but I love using the spears and has like that alternate attack where you can like kind of spin on it, which is cool. But I'm not the biggest build crafter in the world, which I'm sure you have an MMO background, so
that's fair.
I'm sure you have a more sophisticated answer to this.
No, I just like big sword. So I love running 2 big swords. Virtuous Contract and Virtuous Treaty.
Okay, yeah, the Beast Lord is my favorite sword. That is the sword I have a tattoo of.
It's a very cool sword. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that is very cool.
So big fan of the Beast Lord. That's just a cool big sword. You got a little lion on the end of it.
It's large.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I think one of my 2B statues, she has the Beast Lord equipped. One of my several. 2B
I was going to
statues.
say, how many do you have? I've got 1 just because I've moved around a lot. But
yeah, I think I'm up to 5 2B statues.
I need to catch up.
3 9S's, only 1 A2 because they don't do as much with her.
Yeah, they really don't.
Yeah, it's kind of a heartbreaker. Or
I love A2.
Yeah, she's wonderful. I mean, my favorite Nier character is Kaine, and they haven't done any statues of her, which is unacceptable.
Yeah, that strikes me as odd actually, because I feel like Kaine would be a popular. She's such a fantastic character.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Huh?
Yeah, devastating. I think they have one.
That
in
is
production.
devastating.
I follow this. I got to keep my Nier shrine up to date.
Yeah, there you go.
Can't have any gaps in the collection.
Yeah. No, I got to catch up. I would actually love. So Virtuous Treaty is my favorite sword. It's the really cool, like massive samurai sword.
Oh yeah.
I love that every weapon has a bit of a story. Virtuous Treaty, its description is the samurai sword's pure white blade is not yet sullied by a single drop of blood, which is really interesting because it means it was made after humans were extinct, presumably.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, that is a good point. Wow. Okay.
But it's such a cool sword. It's a fantastic sword. I love the design. I would love to get a life-size version. I just want to have sword wall. That's my actual goal.
Oh, okay.
Just sword wall.
Wow,
yeah.
This is cool. I didn't know this.
Yeah, that's really what I want.
A giant Buster sword up there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Giant Buster sword. I would love Sephiroth's as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Virtuous Treaty though, excellent sword. So yeah, no, I don't have a sophisticated build at all. I just like big sword.
Big sword is good.
Just give me big sword.
I like. You can do cool stuff when you combine big sword with spear. You can do some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I tried. I have played with spears. I've played with the bracers, but I don't know. I always go back to big sword.
The spear is great with 9S because he just isn't as fast as 2B or A2. So you can throw the spears, and this kind of helps you out a little bit. I have found.
You're going to be appalled at this. So my first playthrough, I played the way that you're supposed to with 9S. I hacked.
Mm-hmm.
It was great because you hack once and you're like, that's it, done and dusted.
Yes.
My second playthrough on Switch, I did a melee build with 9S, so I didn't hack at all.
Wow.
I just gave him big sword. I found big sword, and I leveled it up. And I just did a melee. It was harder because 9S isn't as strong.
Yes, so that's what I was going to ask. Like, was it satisfying? I mean,
it was.
Okay,
it was.
Wow, I'm gonna have to try this out.
It was a lot harder, but I enjoyed it. I was like, you know what, this will be a nice, fun little challenge.
But you missed out on all the fun chiptune remixes.
You do, yeah. And I love it so much. I mean, we can talk about the music, as well, but. Yeah, I mean, the way that the music is done in this game it's extraordinary, just extraordinary. And this was my first introduction to really noticeable and noticeably good vertical music sequencing, which for any listeners who maybe aren't familiar with the term, is where you have a bunch of different layers to a song. You've got, your percussion, your bass, your synthesizers, your guitars, your piano, your strings, your brass, your winds, whatever you have in your song. And then you can remove and you can add layers based off of what happens in gameplay. And I remember going into combat, sometimes you get percussion or you get a cello. And the most noticeable one to me was Copied City, when you get to the Atom fight and it starts off and you just have the piano. And I think you have percussion in phase 1, and then you get into phase 2 and the choir kicks in. And it's so good. The way that the music is obviously written is fantastic, but the way that it's implemented is, so good.
And I'm envious of your musical ear right now. I mean, I guess you're a composer, so you should probably have a good one. But I don't know if I ever. I mean, I certainly noticed the additional layering, or like the boss fight against Simone, right, where the music is, part of the combat design. That's pretty wonderful stuff.
Do you have a favorite song on the OST? Which is so hard. Like, the entire thing is amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, I feel like the boring answer is "Weight of the World." If that's a powerful song, I don't know if that counts though in the way you're thinking.
Why wouldn't that count?
I don't know, because it's the credit song, I guess.
No, okay. I think it counts.
All right,
I think that's sorry, not to like ferociously defend your point, but
I appreciate it. Please defend me against myself.
I think most people say that. And then I have a really, I think, uncommon one. But yeah, I think Weight of the World absolutely counts.
Okay, but then the second choice would be the Simone boss fight song, which I liked. Yeah, which I'm sure it helps that it's such a key part of the gameplay, so it sticks out. But it is also just something, wonderful to listen to on its own. But yeah, it's so. I feel like I always listen to the Automata soundtrack, together. So I feel like they get jumbled in my head.
Yeah, I get that. That was me after I finished the game, where I didn't know the name of anything because I just listened to it front to back, or I ran, had it on shuffle all the time. And I was like, I don't know what anything's called, but.
I will say I do prefer the Automata soundtrack to the Replicant one.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I think that is the aspect where I think I most prefer Automata. Like, I just think that maybe Okabe, he's getting better at his craft every time, but there's something about the way the soundtrack itself, but also the way the game implements it at so many different points is just, I don't know, beautiful. Yeah.
No, he's an extraordinary composer.
Yeah.
My favorite song's Copied City. I think I said this actually on a different episode, but again, going back to that word visceral, I remember when I was downloading the game on my PlayStation, I was like doing something in the kitchen, and it downloaded and started playing on the home screen, the PlayStation home screen. And I was like, what is this song? I need to know immediately. I need to play this game immediately. And obviously the soundtrack did not disappoint. It's extraordinary. And I love that Automata is known for its music as well. I feel like a lot of people that haven't played the game know the music. And I love that, because you can still experience a fragment of the game through the music. Just, Copied City though. I don't know. There's something about it that it's simple in a lot of ways. It repeats in a lot of ways, but the choir is so beautiful. The piano is so beautiful. It's so good.
They really do just let you know up front that this is going to be a special game by having that song be the menu or the PlayStation's music for it.
I'm glad they do.
yeah, me too.
It's like a core memory for me.
Well, I'm sure many of your core memories involve Nier Automata.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. So I played Automata first. You played Replicant first. So I really wanted to ask, now that we're finally talking about Automata, what was it like seeing the library in the tower for you in this game? Because, and I think we spoke about it briefly in our Replicant episode, but I had the opposite experience where I was like, what's this library? Like, what's the significance of this librry? And then I played Replicant.
Library?
and I was like, oh my God, it's the library.
Wow, yeah, that is so interesting. Well, I mean, now that you've played it, you know how much time you spend in that library.
Yeah.
You're going there constantly. That's where your closest ally is. Really, it's just full up in that library. So you just see it, and I played Gestalt many times, so I was very familiar with the sights of it. So for me, I was kind of took me off guard when you get to the library in the tower, because I just like got overwhelmed with emotions in a way I don't typically with myself, but it was a absolute put the controller down moment, and like it was almost like I had to work through and process seeing in the library again. And it's such a weird, because it's this copied version of it, right? It's not as it's that kind of towery look to it, for lack of a better term. It just it looked off as well, and I don't know. It was just it was overwhelming. I would never have expected seeing an environment from a game again would make me tear up, but it absolutely did, and sucked me in my tracks. And I could feel the breath leaving my body when you open the door, like the basement door. Which is obviously what Kaine was the seal of for 5 years in Nier Gestalt, and. So it was crazy. Like I finally get to go to the basement in a way. It was really something.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I wish I don't know. I can't really. I wish I could evaluate myself better and realize like what happened to me in that moment. But yeah, it was just it was like emotionally powerful and overwhelming to see that. So how was it in reverse?
I mean, first of all, I can only imagine what that felt like, because to your point, you spend so much time at the library in this desperate attempt to save Yona.
Right.
And in reverse, I had a very similar reaction, and I hadn't spent any time at the library at all in Replicant. I got there and I was like, no way.
Yeah.
It's the library. And again, put the controller down moment for me as well. And then I realized how much time you spend in the library. And it was a beautiful moment where that it's so early on in the game. And that's the moment where I was like, oh, I really need to pay attention to what the links are between these two games. And they're probably not going to be obvious at first. It was fantastic. But the first time that I played Automata, I was like, I don't understand what the point of this library is. not I don't understand what the point is, but man, if I still think you're going to disagree with me. I still think you should play Automata first and then Replicant and then Automata a second time. That's the best way to play the games.
What is this? What is this madness? What are you talking about?
Because if you play Replicant first, you're spoiled on the fact that humanity is extinct. And so you go into Automata, you're like, well, of course Yorha's lying. Humanity doesn't exist. But I will say, going into the library, and then you read about Yona in Automata, and I was like, well, who's Yona? I don't know what any of this is.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
It was so cool playing it in reverse, because afterwards I was like, oh, I know, I've heard of Project Gestalt, and I like kind of know what that is. And I've heard of Yona. Oh, this is Yona, which was cool. But yeah, you're going to disagree with me on the order to play the games. That's okay.
No, I agree with you, because Automata is easier, like structurally, and the combat is better. But if you have the love of Automata going into Replicant, I feel like I can better trust that you'll get through Replicant to see why it's amazing. Because the game, as much as I love it to death, that game asks a lot of its player in terms of patience. And,
yeah, it definitely does.
And I hope you're ready to do the same thing 4 times.
Yep.
With the same characters.
Yep.
and make sure you collect every single weapon.
Yep.
Okay. If you accidentally skip that crate in that dungeon, well, I guess you're just gonna have to get the next playthrough, buddy. Like it can be brutal in that way.
Have fun at the junk heap.
Yeah, oh my god, man.
Sorry.
No, it's just on both PS3 and PS4. I've tried to go for the platinum trophy of that Nier game, and I just can't. Farming for materials in the junk heap, it eats at me. Oh my gosh,
it's brutal.
But yeah, you're ready to do the junk heap 3 times every playthrough.
Yep.
So that's why I would say if you want to get into this world, definitely start with Automata.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that actually, but yeah, I think that's when I was like, oh, I got to do this again. Is it going to be the exact same?
You better believe it.
I was like, well, I need to know what the true ending was, and I played Replicant, so I got to see. Again, I gave a spoiler warning, but major spoilers for Replicant. I got to experience playing as Kaine in Replicant, and so worth it. Worth it. Collecting it, all that time in the junk heap, worth it to be able to play as Kaine.
Hey, look, imagine if you waited, it was 11 years or whatever in between to play as Kaine. I can't even imagine. The payoff on that is incredible. Especially because, we had read about that ending forever, but we talked about that in the Replicant issue.
Which you should go listen to.
I would say so.
But going back to Automata, do you have a favorite side quest? And I'll caveat this with the first time that I played the game, I was like, side quests, absolutely not. I need to know what happens next.
I mean, that's understandable.
I mean, it was really one of those. So I only played the side quests in my second playthrough. But I do have a couple of favorites, but I'm curious whether you do.
So I actually did the same thing as you, Marina, where the first time through, I kind of ignored the side quests because, I played the first game side quests, and I'm sure you did too in Replicant, and they're not. I did. And though they always have fun banter, they're not always engaging. Automata has much better side quests. And because I kept talking about humanity on the moon, I was like, what the hell is going on with this game? So I needed to see what all the differences and the ties were. So I also skipped a bunch of side quests. But I was kicking myself doing that because on the second playthrough, when I was trying to do all of them, there is a side quest for Emil. That pays off the first game. And I hate to be a Replicant, fanboy here, but
no, please.
That side quest chain where you're getting the lunar tears for Emil and helping him kind of bring back some of his memory and how it's like really powerful story for Emil, but then it's also kind of funny because he just zips across the entire nation to get to you in a second. And it just
love Emil.
Yeah, he's so lovable. And then you find his little hideaway, but then later you find Kaine's home that he's been storing all this time with a fully cultivated field of lunar tears. And having gone through the trouble of getting lunar tears, I knew what a pain in the ass that was. So I was like, man, so it was just this beautiful spot and this, powerful way to learn more about Emil and how much those people meant to him. And then you can, later as 9S, you can rest Tubi's sword at that site to say goodbye. And it's so that chain kind of, I don't know, it brought the two games together a lot for me. And so that would be my favorite side quest.
That is a really good one.
What about you? Yeah, it stands out.
Yeah, it really does. I bawled my eyes out getting there because at that point I had already played Replicant. It was my second playthrough of Automata, and I didn't know what the quest was because I don't really read about games. I don't read about games at all that I haven't played, because I've spoiled myself on big things in the past.
Yeah, it's good of you.
It was an ugly crying situation.
Yeah.
That was a great side quest. I have a couple of others. The first one, I don't know if this is an actual side quest that shows up as a side quest, but the one with the wise machine.
Oh yeah.
Content warning for self-harm here, but it's the one where 9S hacks into the character's just called the wise machine, and You go into its head and it's trying to figure out the meaning of its existence, and it's in pain because it can't find value in its own existence. And then it questions why it was born, if it's just to fight in this eternal war. And eventually it meets its demise by its own hand to end that cycle of rebirth, the endless cycle of rebirth and war. And that side quest is just so uniquely Nier Automata to me, is the only way that I can describe it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But yeah, the whole questioning, why are we here? Why are we alive? What's our purpose? That to me is such a huge overarching theme in the game. And I thought that it was interesting that it was done in a way where 9S hacks into a machine and is then reprimanded for it as well. So I thought that was great. And then the second one was one called Amnesia, where you meet an android that has memory loss and is asking for help to get her memory back. And you kind of go around the world and you hack into her system to try to fix, I guess, her circuits. And you both learn that she was a secret Yorha type E android. And her last mission was to kill a dear friend. And so she was the one who erased her own memories because she couldn't live with herself and what she had done, even though she was built for that purpose. And so now that she knows the truth again, she becomes unstable. And I thought that this was really interesting foreshadowing to the reveal that 2B is a 2E model, because 2B gets really clammy afterwards.
Yes,
Because 9S goes, well, I didn't know that there was an E-type 2B. Did you know that? And 2B's like, she just gets super clammy. So, yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Yeah, those two, and then the Lunar Tier one. I did really enjoy the dojo one as well. I just thought that one was really fun.
He just gets more and more swole.
So good.
Yeah, the karate champion. Yeah, that's good stuff.
I enjoyed that. But yeah, some really good side quests. Really, really good side quests in that game. As someone who doesn't typically play a lot of side quests.
Oh, really? In other games as well?
Yeah, I'll play some. My problem is that I'm so drawn to the main story that side quest is typically a second playthrough kind of thing for me.
Yeah, no, I guess so. I guess I can get that.
But Zach, we're already at the hour mark in a few minutes here, so
yeah.
Which, I could talk about this game forever.
Right. Well, this is not the last podcast episode about it, I'm sure.
Oh, most certainly not. Most certainly not. But yeah, was there anything that we haven't spoken about yet that you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, I just, I love this series and Yoko Taro to death. And I love these two Nier games as kind of reflections of each other. I like to say, Replicant makes you feel, but Automata makes you think. And while they both do both, I feel like Replicant is, laser focus on that cast of characters and the emotional ringer they go through. And Automata has a lot of those tearjerkers too, but it also really just makes you think about your place in all of this, and in a way that doesn't feel cheesy. And that really endears me to the game quite a bit, because many video games do not try to make games don't often make you or want to make you like sad or contemplative. They want to tell you a strong story, but Nier Automata is not afraid to ask you of so what do you do with your life, or what do you make of our world? Or yeah, it's just it's powerful stuff. And every time you replay Automata, you see a new angle and you learn more about its world, and thus kind of more about our own world too.
Wow. I'm speechless. I can't put it better than that.
Wow.
No way.
You. High praise from the Automata fan, the bigger Automata fan in the room.
Actually, I tweeted about Automata earlier today. I was like, everyone's playing Dragon's Dogma 2 and Rise of the Ronin, and I just want to start my annual playthrough of Automata. And of course, that's the tweet that everyone loves.
I mean, I can't wait for you to play Automata again.
Yeah, same. I really can't wait, but I agree with everything that you said. It really is such a special game. And I'm always scared of replaying games because, I don't know, I have this weird thing where I'm like, oh, do I actually really like it this much? And then every time that I play Nier Automata, I'm like, yep, Yep.
No mistake there.
Nope. No mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Yoko Taro is an extraordinary storyteller, and what they did with Nier Automata was just incredible. Incredible. But yeah, it really is such a special game, and yeah, I can't wait to replay it again.
I know. I'm going to see your tweets and probably feel inclined to replay it myself.
As you should.
Yeah, as I should, of course.
But Zack, thank you so much for being here. It's always such a pleasure to have you. Please do check out The Gaming Outsider when you can. As Zack said, it's meant to really be a podcast that makes you feel like you're a part of a group of friends just talking about games. And it's great. And any final thoughts, Zack?
No, I mean, please do listen to The Gaming Outsider. If it's basically the same conversation Scott Clark, my co-host, and I have been having since playing Gears of War 2 online.
Incredible.
In 2008 or whatever. It was basically just the same friendship and cadence. And thank you for having me on again, Marina. It was a great joy, a high honor to be the first guest on a Nier Automata episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course.
I'm happy. I'm happy to be a Nier Yoko Taro correspondent for you.
I appreciate having you on every single time. And to everyone listening, thank you so much for being here. And if you have any feedback, please send it our way. Our socials will be in the description if you'd like to follow us. And if you're not following along, please do so that you don't miss a future episode. And we'll see you next time. Thanks again.